If the volume of a proton, 1,800 times as heavy as an electron, should be magnified to the size of the head of a pin, then in comparison a pin's head would attain a diameter equal to that of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. 7. Atomic matter. The formation of all matter is on the order of the solar system. There is at the center of every minute universe of energy a relatively stable, comparatively stationary, nuclear portion of material existence. This central unit is endowed with a threefold possibility of manifestation. Surrounding this energy center there whirl, in endless profusion, but in fluctuating circuits, the energy units which are faintly comparable to the planets encircling the Sun of some starry group like your own solar system. Within the atom, the electrons revolve about the central proton with about the same comparative room the planets have as they revolve about the Sun in the space of the solar system. There is the same relative distance, in comparison with actual size, between the atomic nucleus and the inner electronic circuit as exists between the inner planet, Mercury, and your Sun. The electronic axial revolutions and their orbital velocities about the atomic nucleus are both beyond the human imagination, not to mention the velocities of their component ultimatons. The positive particles of radium fly off into space at the rate of 10,000 miles a second, while the negative particles attain a velocity approximating that of light. The local universes are of decimal construction. There are just 100 distinguishable atomic materializations of space energy in a dual universe. That is the maximum possible organization of matter in Nebadon. These 100 forms of matter consist of a regular series in which from 1 to 100 electrons revolve around a central and relatively compact nucleus. It is this orderly and dependable association of various energies that constitutes matter. Not every world will show 100 recognizable elements at the surface, but they are somewhere present, have been present, or are in process of evolution. Conditions surrounding the origin and subsequent evolution of a planet determine how many of the 100 atomic types will be observable. The heavier atoms are not found on the surface of many worlds. Even on Urantia, the known heavier elements manifest a tendency to fly to pieces, as is illustrated by radium behavior. Stability of the atom depends on the number of electrically inactive neutrons in the central body. Chemical behavior is wholly dependent on the activity of the freely revolving electrons. In Urvanton, it has never been possible naturally to assemble over 100 orbital electrons in one atomic system. When 101 have been artificially introduced into the orbital field, the result has always been the instantaneous disruption of the central proton, with a wild dispersion of the electrons and other liberated energies. While atoms may contain from 1 to 100 orbital electrons, only the outer 10 electrons of the larger atoms revolve about the central nucleus as distinct and discrete bodies, intactly and compactly swinging around on precise and definite orbits. The 30 electrons nearest the center are difficult of observation or detection as separate and organized bodies. This same comparative ratio of electronic behavior in relation to nuclear proximity obtains in all atoms, regardless of the number of electrons embraced. The nearer the nucleus, the less there is of electronic individuality. The wave-like energy extension of an electron may so spread out as to occupy the whole of the lesser atomic orbits. Especially is this true of the electrons nearest the atomic nucleus. The 30 innermost orbital electrons have individuality, but their energy systems tend to intermingle, extending from electron to electron and well-nigh from orbit to orbit. The next 30 electrons constitute the second family or energy zone and are of advancing individuality, bodies of matter exerting a more complete control over their attendant energy systems. The next 30 electrons, the third energy zone, are still more individualized and circulate in more distinct and definite orbits. The last 10 electrons, present in only the 10 heaviest elements, are possessed of the dignity of independence and are, therefore, able to escape more or less freely from the control of the mother nucleus. With a minimum variation in temperature and pressure, the members of this fourth and outermost group of electrons will escape from the grasp of the central nucleus, as is illustrated by the spontaneous disruption of uranium and kindred elements. The first 27 atoms, those containing from 1 to 27 orbital electrons, are more easy of comprehension than the rest. From 28 upward, we encounter more and more of the unpredictability of the supposed presence of the unqualified absolute. But some of this electronic unpredictability is due to differential ultimatonic axial revolutionary velocities and to the unexplained huddling proclivity of ultimatons. Other influences, physical, electrical, magnetic, and gravitational, also operate to produce variable electronic behavior. Atoms, therefore, are similar to persons as to predictability. Statisticians may announce laws governing a large number of either atoms or persons, but not for a single individual atom or person. 8. Atomic cohesion. While gravity is one of several factors concerned in holding together a tiny atomic energy system, there is also present in and among these basic physical units a powerful and unknown energy, the secret of their basic constitution and ultimate behavior, a force which remains to be discovered on Urantia. This universal influence permeates all the space embraced within this tiny energy organization. The interelectronic space of an atom is not empty. Throughout an atom, this interelectronic space is activated by wave-like manifestations which are perfectly synchronized with electronic velocity and ultimatonic revolutions. This force is not wholly dominated by your recognized laws of positive and negative attraction. Its behavior is therefore sometimes unpredictable. This unnamed influence seems to be a space force reaction of the unqualified absolute. The charged protons and the uncharged neutrons of the nucleus of the atom are held together by the reciprocating function of the mesotron, a particle of matter 180 times as heavy as the electron. Without this arrangement, the electric charge carried by the protons would be disruptive of the atomic nucleus. As atoms are constituted, neither electric nor gravitational forces could hold the nucleus together. The integrity of the nucleus is maintained by the reciprocal cohering function of the mesotron, which is able to hold charged and uncharged particles together because of superior force-mass power and by the further function of causing protons and neutrons constantly to change places. The mesotron causes the electric charge of the nuclear particles to be incessantly tossed back and forth between protons and neutrons. At one infinitesimal part of a second, a given nuclear particle is a charged proton, and the next an uncharged neutron. And these alternations of energy status are so unbelievably rapid that the electric charge is deprived of all opportunity to function as a disruptive influence. Thus does the mesotron function as an energy carrier particle